Hey there.
Hi, Lee. How are you doing?
Good.
Good, good. I'm Matt with MovieWeb. It's a pleasure to speak with you. This is I love films like this, culture clashes, but also from a historical perspective. Um, it's tragic and fascinating, and all these things I like to see. Uh, so congratulations on that.
Very
I
much.
I'm curious. I read, I believe, in the original script, you didn't like Monroe because he was kind of a religious zealot. And you've also said that you usually don't get too deep into the writing process. So, with those two things in mind, why did the story stick with you enough for you to get invested in the research of it all and sort of change it to what it is now?
Well, it's a strange thing that you should say that. My producer first brought me the screenplay that she had written. She had written, not written herself. She said, "Do you want to make this?" And I read it and I said, "No, I don't, because it's not about a character I'm attracted to. Not attracted to religious figures." And she said, "Well, what would you do to it? How would you change it if you were to make it?" I said, "Well, I would do this and this and this, big structural changes, and I would turn him into a humanist rather than a religious zealot, because then he'd be an interesting character. A humanist who's carrying some baggage and he's trying to get away from it and traveling all around the world to try and get away from his emotional baggage." I said, "That becomes an interesting character to me." Then he's confronted with a new culture and new society, and everything that he thought was right gets turned upside down. So I started, she said, "Well," I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll write up what I think should happen to this film if I were to make it." I said, "If I were to make it." But that doesn't mean that any other director would want to do something else. So I wrote up a few pages of treatment, and the producers fell in love with it, and so did the film commission. And they said, "Well, we love your thoughts and ideas. Are you sure you don't want to direct it?" And I said, "Well, it's strange. I'm still not sure." As I did more research, I started researching the period and project. It was a period that I found quite fascinating. I always found it fascinating because we know very little about it. The 1830s, New Zealand was completely lawless. There was no judicial law for 20 years between 1810 and 1830, until the British imposed a legal structure upon the country, and in it only just. So I became fascinated with this kind of period of anarchy, with a major indigenous population which was at war with each other, and a small, tiny group of Europeans coming into it. So the more I got into it, long story short, the more I liked it. I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll direct it." And the rest is history. Just been keep refining the screenplay to what it was.
In many ways, that seems like what's interested directors about Westerns from an American or Western perspective, just
Yeah,
uh, a sort of lawlessness, uh, an indigenous population at odds with uh,
yeah. Great
settlers.
fan.
Does that feel kind of similar in that sense?
Yeah, I'm a great fan of the American Western. I think it's one of the greatest genres ever produced on film because it's such a fantasy. It's a, it's a, it's a fake tableau on which you can place anything. And I'm a great admirer of the great Western directors like John Ford. There's about four or five John Ford homages in the Convert, because I loved his use of landscapes, and I copy him whenever I can. But yeah, it is. There is a lot of similarities, and it's no secret that every director great American director, not including Sergio Leone, not discounting Sergio Leone, had a go at making a Western at some stage of their life. And it was not to be looked down upon the way it is now these days. It's kind of just all but disappeared now, but every now and again someone comes along and you get an Unforgiven or something else with it.
Yeah, Guy Pearce even has been in a couple of great westerns. I believe The Proposition, he was in that.
And, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just got an email from him the other day. He's off to make another Western in New Mexico. So,
Oh, great. Yeah, no,
yeah.
I mean, he's phenomenal. Obviously, I read that you and him had been wanting to do something together for a while. Why do you think? I mean, I know COVID and scheduling allowed this to happen, but why was he great for the part of Munro, and why did you want to work with him?
Well, I've always admired his work, and I met him in Los Angeles way back in the 90s, and we both liked each other, and we said, we've got to do something together. And then he went his way and I went mine, and the two timing never works out for what you want. But Guy, when I was writing this character of Munro, or putting it together with the writers, I said, think of Guy Pearce as you write this character, just because he's the guy I wanted. And so I wanted him from the start, and we got him. And so he was always in my head when I'm creating a scene. I said, what would Guy do in this character? My version of Guy Pearce, what would he do in this scene? He was front and center all the time. And it's good when you, it's really rare that you, as a director, get the actor that you want, unless it's a studio film with huge amounts of money and they've already got the actor as part of the framework, the lead actor, A-list actor.
Yeah, and he wasn't attached, so it was just kind of mostly you and the script, right? That brought him in.
Yeah.
No. Speaking of, I mean, you said you met him in LA. Speaking of that time, you have a really interesting Hollywood period, sandwiched between these films in New Zealand. Could Was there a reason that you left Hollywood? Is there a way you approach those studio films differently than you would in New Zealand with Once Were Warriors or this?
No, well, I'm always been a great admirer of American film. I mean, it's sort of the foundation of my film going as a film lover. Much as I love Japanese and Russian films and whatever else, I love to watch American films. So the chance to shoot American film came along, and I would take it. So Mulholland Falls is, to me, a chance to shoot one of my favorite genres, which is sort of noir in America, especially in Los Angeles. And The Edge was a chance for me to work with two great actors on a subject that was dear to my heart, which is being lost in the wilderness, which I have been as a young man, and doing a David Mamet script, fantastic. No, but when I made the Bond movie, I came back to the United States after working in Britain, and immediately made Triple X Part 2, another big action movie. Suddenly I was making action movies and not dramatic movies, but the drama was already shifting to, The Sopranos had come out, and everything changed from 2000 onwards. And the American dramatic film, like The Edge, for example, was disappearing and gravitating towards television. So I thought I'd worked with a Japanese crew once, a long time ago, Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, when I was an assistant director. I thought it'd be nice to work in a different environment So I thought it would be good to be working in Europe. What's it like to work on a French film or an Italian film or a German film? So I went over there and started made The Devil's Double, and they made another film which has never been completed, and came back to New Zealand and started finishing off these pictures.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you for
You're welcome.
discussing this.
Yeah.
I know we spoke with Guy as well. We're hoping as many people as possible get to see it. So
Good. Thanks very much.